Item 1 of the agenda, which is apologies, and I have none. Number 2, acknowledgements, I have none. Number 3, declarations of conflict of interest. Councillor Peach, you wish to have one?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to declare a general conflict of interest on the decision report 2.1 community grants. My wife is a committee of the Tintinara Playgroup, no longer on the executive, and my children attend. I do intend to stay in the meeting and vote.
Thank you. Has anyone else got any conflict of interest declarations? There being none, I move to item 4, confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 21st of March 2023, and this includes the confidential minutes. Is someone prepared to move that way, please? Councillor Arthur, you're moving. Is there a seconder? Councillor Bland, I'm going to take. Discussion? Councillor Roundtree?
Yes, Mayor, as I've indicated, I won't be moving to accept the minutes. I feel that the comments made around our motions without notice during the last meeting should have been recorded as having been asked to be moved to the next meeting. So I feel like that was a part of our meeting for a true and accurate reflection of the meeting that happened. Decision was made by yourself to have us bring them to the following meeting, and that decision should be noted. So for that reason, I won't be voting to accept them.
You're entitled to do that, councillor.
Thank you.
We'll go through some more workshops in the near future around what can and cannot be in the minutes. Any further discussion around that subject or the minutes, please? Councillor Peach.
Mr. Mayor, I also will not be voting to confirm the minutes. I believe that there should have been a reflection of the decision not to accept the motions recorded, and that having a nil record is not accurate.
Okay. Be that as it may, if there's no further discussion, we'll close, councillor. Put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? I'm going to call it as those in favour being councillors Arthur, I think I'm right now, O'Hara and Bland, and those voting against being councillors Roundtree, Peach, Maidman and Bowman. So I did just, the motion is lost, which I'm just going to stop the meeting for a second and just, what's the consequence of that, please?
We'll come back to you.
We'll come back to me, so we'll move on. Adjourn business number 5, the review of delegations register. There is a report, councillors, the recommendation there. Councillor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to so move.
Okay, you move. Second, councillor Roundtree. Councillor Peach, you want to speak to it?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just noting that it's adjourned business and deferred again with a deadline, but appreciate the conversations and discussion around it, and happy to so move.
Okay, councillor Roundtree.
Nothing further to add.
Anyone else? There being none. Closed. Closed. Motion is that a review of council's delegations register be provided by the 15th of August 2023 ordinary council meeting. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Just in relation to the previous item, the confirmation of minutes, it is possible to move it with an amendment. Is that my question to the governance officer? Is, are we required to adopt the minutes at the next meeting, or is there some room around that?
Good Mayor, I don't think there's any consequences such for not accepting them. Just in terms of what's in the regulations, but having to go any further than that would have to seek more advice probably.
No worries. I'm going to move on. Number 6. Mayor's report, councillors, report by members there. Any questions? Sorry. Ooh, I'll start with Councillor Coleman. I'll start that side of the room.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Your report on the 27th, the Murray Lands and River Land Local Government Association Planning Day, Transport Waste Management, CWMS, Swan
Yeah.
Reach.
So I am the Deputy President of Murray Lands Riverlands Region, and so in that capacity I'm there. I'm not a voting delegate in that particular committee. Director here, you were there, weren't you, mate? Yes, yes, you were, James, sorry. That was a broad spectrum sort of discussion around the transport plan, the waste management plan and SWIMS and other things, and the opportunity after that to have a look at the flood damage at both Swan Reach and on the way home, Bow Hill, which is extensive.
Thank you.
That's assisting the processes going forward for the region. Anything else?
Got you. Thank you,
Yep.
Mr Mayor. No, 29th. I don't know if you did speak about this, but I'm going to ask it. The Committee of Economic Development of Australian State and State 2023 address with Honourable Peter Malinaris, the Premier, Adelaide.
Yeah, that's the CEDA, as they may call it, and the CEO and myself attended from memory. When he was probably 750, 800 people at the convention centre, effectively touting how good the state is going. And I would say his 2 themes for the state where we'll grow or go will be around the submarines, and I would say copper and alternative energy in the Spencer Triangle was his 2 themes. I'd also note that he evoked or more than mentioned the legacy of Tom Playford twice in his speech. Very good.
Mention rural.
He mentioned
Sorry.
no. Well, no. There was that discussion afterwards that it very much focuses on those two areas. No, I think what I found interesting about that was he evoked what was a Liberal Premier.
Yes.
In his speech and focused around provision of water, housing, and those like things that perhaps some of us that are old enough to remember or be told about might have remembered that particular time for.
That's all. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Roundtree.
Thank you, Mayor. Just further to your Murray Lands and Riverlands Planning Day, were there any outcomes or decisions made during that meeting that you can share with us?
I think that's coming up on Thursday. There's a follow-up meeting with the board.
Yeah. James, I don't think there was at that meeting.
No, through you, Mr Mayor. No, the meeting was more around, in particular, those elements listed in the agenda and what the MRLGA can do to support councils with regards to management of CWMS, management of waste contracts, and our upgrade of our transport network. So we've got a good handle on our transport and how the Transport Committee operates. How does it then step into the CWMS and waste management space to assist councils? That was the general premise of the discussion.
Thank you. And my second question is around the Canalpin Primary School Review Committee meeting at Coombe. As you know, the subject I'm quite passionate about. Wondering what the outcome of that meeting was and if there would have been an opportunity for an elected member like myself to attend.
So 2 parts. The report is in the hands of the Minister, I can tell you, and it may have been, but in this respect, I decided to go onto that committee. I'd rather not say anything more till the Minister releases his decision, because it is the Minister's final decision on the basis of the recommendation from the committee, which is a confidential report.
Thank you for that. I just feel that I've made it very clear how much I really would have liked to have been a part of that
Appreciate
journey, and a bit disappointed to have not known about its happening.
Okay. Councillor Bland.
Councillor Roundtree had my questions, and I was just interested in what the community were actually keen to see happen in that space.
As in a physical sense or an educational sense?
Oh.
Yeah, well, once again, I think we needed to wait for the Minister to release the report, to be quite honest. And I would note that process was a parallel process to Geranium primary school as well. That was the process was happening concurrently with that.
Okay.
Anything else? There being nothing else, I move on. Elected members' reports. There's one there from Councillor Arthur. You want to add anything, Councillor Arthur? I ask you, did we ever catch the wild dog that was late last year out from the Box Flat Committee? I understand there was a report I did see. So
Yeah, I thought I sent them.
pull your mic down, please.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it is actually, it's one of the few very good committees which works with South Australia and Victoria work together, state government and local government and landowners, and it's been going for something like 30 years. It costs council very little, I think $1,300 or something like that this year. And the maximum I think is about 17, but it's mainly based around controlling the wild dogs. They used to be called dingoes, but they're called wild dogs now because intermingling mainly in the upper area of our Narcat and around that area. It's probably a hard one to quantify because of the fact in Victoria you've got certain areas where dingoes are protected, and then outside of that they're feral animal will be killed. So, and even the Victorian wildlife folks, I think that's a little bit strange.
Never bore it, councillor.
No.
Okay, thank you. There's no other elected member reports. Move on to item 7, petitions. I have none. Item 8, I have no net deputations. Item 9, I have no questions here for public question time. Number 10, item 10.1, community grants round 2, councillors. There is a recommendation. Is someone prepared to move that? Councillor Roundtree. You're moving the recommendation as it reads.
This is for option 2, that council approve the funding to the value of 26,892.70 and approve a budget adjustment of $8,512.
So the recommendation as it is in the agenda in totality.
Yes, actually, I've said.
It should say option 2, is that right? The recommendation
I
of
think
council.
so. That's where I'm a bit confused because
Yeah.
I thought this was option 1, but it's actually option 2, which is the one.
So
I'm-
just so there's no confusion, it's also option 2 further through in the report, but it is the recommendation as appears in our agenda. You're the mover of that, councillor. Is there a seconder?
Mr Mayor,
I need a seconder. There's a seconder to that motion. The motion will lapse for want of a seconder in a minute. I'm going to declare that motion lapsed.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move option 1.
So I've got councillor Arthur option 1 in the report. Option 1. I'll read that in a second, but I will ask for a seconder, councillors.
Do that.
To option 1.
I'll second that.
Councillor Maidment, thank you. Councillor Arthur, you want to speak to your
Yeah, I'd like to.
your motion, please?
My first question would be to the CEO. What do council policies stand for? Are they something that we've got written and we take no notice of, or are they sort of bylaws?
But through you, Mayor, the option 2 recommendation was a result of the
No, that's
Mood
not
in
the
the
question I'm
no,
asking
no.
you, sorry. I'm asking you what the council policies stand for. What is the reason for council policies?
the council policies are guidance for us to ensure that we present to you what needs to be done. Option 2 was the one where, as you spoke about it through the briefing a week or so ago, that there was support for doing option 2. Option 1 would have been the one we would have come back to you normally with.
Okay, but you still really haven't asked. We've got heaps of policies and our policy on this is quite straightforward. you've got a criteria, you meet the criteria, or you don't meet the criteria and you're eligible. And that's the reason I've asked it. This is these three here, the ones that have met the criteria. The others may be able to put in the next lot in September and be able to meet the criteria. So,
Maybe, councillor.
yep. Finished.
You've spoke, councillor, who was the seconder? Councillor Mayman, you wish to add to this?
I agree with, thank you, Mayor, and through you, I agree with councillor Arthur. You have policies and procedures there and they have met all criteria. And that's why I'd be supporting the option.
Okay, I'm going to go to councillor O'Hara next.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Through
Pull
you.
your mic, please, just towards your mic.
I think we've got criteria. Criteria, we'll have every Tom, Dick and Harry on, you know.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Peach.
Mr Mayor, I support the general thrust of councillor Arthur's comments. I'd noticed that the policy actually says, though, that preference will be given to submissions that meet the 50% criteria, and having read the application form, that wasn't very clear in the application at all, that it was a requirement. I was trying to interject before to have a discussion around this before we got to moving. I would prefer to go with an option 3 with a variation that if those committees can show 50% contribution, that we allow for those funds to go to them. But do agree that, particularly in the current budget climate, I'm not comfortable at all with option 2.
Do you want to move an amendment, councillor?
Yes, happy to move an amendment that should any of the other parties mentioned in option 3 not covered under councillor Arthur's first motion, demonstrate 50% contribution, that the funding be allocated to them.
Sorry, councillor, through you, Mayor. I have the staff member in the back of the room, and just from memory, I think in option 3, the Tail and Bend Blue Light Disco didn't meet the criteria that said it had to happen within 6 months, but on all other aspects, it met the criteria. I think that's the only difference. No, it's not.
So I believe RSL Meningie Sub-Branch, the Kenelpin District Australia Society and the Border Downs Football Club were unable to demonstrate a 50% contribution. So I would like to move an amendment that funding be given to those clubs should they demonstrate a 50% contribution.
So through you, Mayor, we've already checked with those groups and this is the final position on that. So we've done that work beforehand.
I'll withdraw the amendment then.
I'll take it that amendment's withdrawn. I am back to the motion that it's gone from me. It's option 1 in effect. It's option 1. Moved by councillor Arthur, second by councillor Mayman. Anyone else want to speak for or against that motion? Councillor Rountree, you can, yes.
Oh, can I?
Yep.
So my reason for not supporting the first one and moving for the second one was that I think these guys got really close to being able to demonstrate. Now we're here for the ratepayers, we're here to give back to the community. It takes a lot of effort for these guys to put these applications in. They need the money. For us, after listening to what we've discussed today about where we are prepared to spend money, it's a small budget adjustment to give these guys what they need to go ahead. And at our workshop which was only just a few days ago, there was general consensus around that being the way we were looking like we would go. So I think from the staff took from that workshop the right feeling that this is where we were headed and put it up as the motion, because it's a tiny little bit of money in the scheme of things, but it's going to mean the world to these small volunteer groups or these groups to actually get on. Now, I also take the point of policy, and if we don't stick to something, what's the point of having it? I 100% understand that. But at the same time, we are here to serve the ratepayers of this district. And here's an opportunity. We have these grants. It's a small adjustment to see a lot of very happy faces out there. And so I won't be supporting this one because I still think option 2 was a better option.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak for or against? There being none, let's go to the mover. Close.
Close.
So I'm really clear that council approve funding to the value of $13,562.50 to the 3 successful grant applications who met the eligibility criteria in full received for the following organisations, and that is the Tintinara Playgroup of $5,000, the Canalpin Golf Club of $4,590.50, and the Canalpin Mosaic and LED Lighting Group for $3,972. Correct, councillor? Correct motion?
Yep.
Put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Those against, I'm watching you. I declare that carried, but with councillors Roundtree and Peach against, councillors Qualman, Bland, O'Hara, Maidman and Arthur for. So it remains, the motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Number two. Number two. Wrong page, yes, sorry. Yeah, there is 2 options, councillors. The National General Assembly of Local Government 2023. There is options there that the council receive and note the report of the council endorsed the mayor in attending the National Assembly of Local Government on the 13th to the 16th of June 2023 in Canberra. Just note that the CEO is unable to attend. I have no feelings either way what council wishes to do. Sorry, that's my point of view. Councillor Bland.
I would move option 1. I would also like to add another point to that, is that the mayor meet with ministers on relevant subjects to be further defined in relation to this council. And therefore appointments be made. Ashley's well versed in this.
Yeah, I'm well aware. You've moved, councillor. Is there a seconder? Councillor Arthur.
Yep.
Right, you want to speak, councillor Bland, further?
Yes, I think that attendance, not only for networking information, is really important. An opportunity for the mayor to visit either with employees of different ministers or with the minister, and on 2 or 3 relevant subjects in particular to this council area, and that a briefing paper on each one of those subjects be prepared to assist the mayor. I think it's important that we keep our name up there.
Okay, the seconder, councillor Arthur, you want to add anything to this debate?
Finish, sir.
Anyone else? We're just checking whether Parliament's sitting that week, right at the moment. Both houses, busy week.
Oh,
It's mile a minute, mayor a minute, isn't it? Isn't that what it's called?
Mayor a minute.
Try to get that appointment, it's easier.
You've closed, councillor,
I'm closed.
on that quip. Put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Number 3, grant of lease for the Tailem Bend Golf Course. There is a recommendation, councillors. Councillor Qualman.
I move it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor O'Hara, you the seconder, I hope. Is there any, you want to speak, councillor?
Oh, just a comment. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, that I see that we conducted a community engagement and majority of people seem to be happy for the golf club and golf club itself to renew its lease. So that's why I support the recommendation. Thank you.
Councillor O'Hara, anything to add? I might add that some people have spoke to me about, future development potential of that site. In general, this lease doesn't preclude any further discussions with the golf club, but it gives them enormous security, given that we're now 21-year leases around their development plan. They would obviously be the kingpin of any future opportunities. You'll close
Close, thank you.
for the motion. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Number 4, electric 5. Why am I out of sync? No, 4, special local roads program. Councillors, there's a recommendation there. Councillor Rountree, you want
I
a
have
question?
questions.
Right, away you go.
So I just wanted to be clear on what I'm looking at here. So we had originally agreed to allocate 341,555 from council sealed road renewal budget for the 4th and final stage, but now we're looking to increase that to 600,000 for the 4th and final stage, which is nearly double. And also noting that we will not need to use funding from the 24-25 financial year, as we would have completed this road in this financial year. I was a little bit confused. So this is just what my understanding is, and that we're not doing Heinrich Road anymore. Am I somewhere close?
No, this council's pulled back from pursuing Heinrich Road through the
Yeah.
SLURP process. Through
But
the
is the
SLURP
amount-
process, I might add, councillor.
For the slope project, yeah.
Hmm.
But so the understanding that we're not doing it over 4 years, we're doing it over 3 years.
Which
And
road?
is that why we're looking at?
Poltalic or the Carcoma?
Sorry, this is Poltalic.
James, just address the Poltalic one first, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So we had an opportunity last financial year to bring forward a stage. We were actually able to deliver 2 stages last year. We used LRCIP funding to fund our contribution as well into that program. So we're simply reallocating. We would have funded 341 next year, 341 the following year. Now funding 600 next year, and then that'll be completion of the project.
That's great. And then my second part of that then is with Carcoma Road, we're spending just under half the unsealed roads renewal budget. That particular road, is that correct? It's half of that amount?
Just speak briefly and I'll add. Yep.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor, there was a potential opportunity that additional funding to what we had originally forecast might become available, SLRP program. That is not the case. There is now sufficient projects within the region, and we would be back to applying for Carcoma across a 2-stage project across 2 years with $500,000 committed to council for the next financial year and 1 million from SLRP, and then the allocation in the following financial year. At the point of writing this report, the potential to deliver the entirety of the project in 1 financial year was still potential, but it's no longer.
Councillor, there's been a lot of work happening around the priority list, and you asked earlier about the meeting at Swan Reach from the regional point of view. And it's taken a lot of governance time in the last few weeks, to be quite honest, around the process and making sure it's correct to protect everyone. We felt that we needed to, at least in the public agenda, offer that option here to you. But since only in the last 24, 48 hours, I believe, we think now that we could pull back. So, James, that we wouldn't be out of order to just reduce that $1 million back, would we, at this stage?
No, certainly not. Now that funding option is not available, that could come back to the original proposed.
500,000.
Happy to move the motion. Then do we want to amend that amount on the motion? Would we do that now?
Yes.
Then I'm happy to move that one.
So you're moving the recommendation as it reads, but with the alteration for
With the alteration.
Carcoma Road 23-24 to 500,000 from
Yeah.
council's unsealed roads renewal budget. Is that correct?
Yes.
There a seconder? Councillor Bland. Want to speak, Councillor Rountree?
No, I've spoken enough.
Right. Councillor Bland.
No, that's quite clear now. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Rountree, you're closed.
Closed.
So the motion is the recommendation, but with the alteration of Carcooma Road from $1 million back to 500,000, as we just explained. Put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Number 5 is electric vehicle charging station proposal for Menengi. There's a recommendation, or someone want to move that way? Councillor O'Hara, you're moving that as it reads. Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Bland. You always say I don't see you. I did look up, sorry. Councillor O'Hara, you want to speak to the motion?
Yeah, so just I think it's a must for the Meningie town and for the finishing of the park there. I'll show up.
Councillor Bland.
I agree with councillor O'Hara's words, and we're going to see more of this. I think we don't have many other options, and we need to satisfy RAA as well.
Yes, councillor Roundtree, sorry.
Sorry, yeah, or what I was hoping to add to the motion was, and I have flagged this with the CEO before, is adding in something that says subject to receiving the 45,000 contribution from RAA. It says it later on in the report, but I think it could be useful to tie it into the motion so that in future, when we look back, it's actually in there. So I would want to add after budget for project delivery in part subject to receiving 45,000 contribution from RAA. And then I think we can actually use some of the words from the report further down under number 2, which goes on to say after the word car park, which includes clauses without prejudice, enable the council to withdraw if RAA do not commit to the 45,000. I just felt that that was brought up in the report. It would be useful to put it in as part of the motion somewhere. If
The mover and seconder here, those two, do they have an issue with it? If it's their motion, they can vary.
I don't have an issue with it.
It's fine. It's in the report, and I'm okay with that.
Okay, so I'm going to say that it's been varied to read, and I will read it out. I think this is in full here, isn't it?
Yeah.
So so this is just a variation of the recommendation, councillors. The council endorsed the construction of a car park to support an electric vehicle charging station at Menengi with a $60,000 to be included within the 23-24 annual business plan and budget for project delivery, subject to receiving the $45,000 contribution from the RAA. And point 2, a licence agreement be executed between Coorong District Council and RAA Innovation Proprietary Limited to be entered into and executed for the purpose of constructing the car park, which includes clauses without prejudice that enable council to withdraw if RAA do not commit to the $45,000 contribution. The CEO is waving at me. Not anymore, it's not. Councillor O'Hara.
I mean, the only thing that worries me a little bit about that, I'm happy to put in there, but what if the job comes in less? And the RAA say, well, we're the job coming less, it only costs 40,000 to put them in everywhere else. It could hold up the whole job.
For you, Mayor. The conversations we've had with RAA have been very collegial, is that the word? And in this current environment, I would bet money that it's not going to come in less. Those things just aren't happening at the moment. They are very keen to accommodate. And the thing that I whispered to the Mayor was, what happens if this 45,000 is commercial in confidence from RAA? And he said, not anymore.
Oops, sorry.
So it's really stating what's already in the contract, and I don't think there's any risk around it. They were as keen to protect that as we were.
Anyone else wish to speak for the motion with the variation? On the screen, Councillor Arthur.
Mr. Mayor, when we had the workshop, we did bring up the proposal of a license system of some description, because it's still, you know, like we don't know who's going to own it, who's running it, and all those sort of things. So we needed somewhere in there a license for them to occupy or something like that.
That's point 2, councillor. License agreement be between the council and the RAA be entered into and executed for the purpose of it.
Yeah,
I think that covers it.
yeah. Right, yeah.
Anyone else? Closing, councillor. So the motion is been varied and it is on our screen. I probably don't want to read it again, but it's substantially the same. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Number 6, records management policy review. Councillors, there's a recommendation there. Councillor Rountree, are you moving that?
Question first.
Yes.
So just looking at the parts that were crossed out in red, and these were 10.1 in particular, giving guidelines for determining what official records are. When I read through that, I thought some of that was actually quite useful, and I'm wondering if it's covered elsewhere or why we've removed examples of what official records might be. I just wonder why we pulled it out. So I can sort of understand maybe diaries and appointment books and calendars because that's all electronic. Drafts, they talk about duplicates, messages, working papers and things like that. So is it covered somewhere else?
In the table through you, Mayor, on page, on the first page, really, the table with the green highlighting. In the first, page 31. Former section 10 has been removed in its entirety as the list was not exhaustive nor subject to the strategic intent of a policy.
Okay.
Guidelines have been replicated by an internal procedure which the Records Management Officer can update as industry practice determines and suggests. So basically it's moved to an internal document, that part of it. So it's
All right.
Councillor Peach,
Mr. Mayor, further to
it's a
that
question, I trust.
question, sorry, Mr. Mayor, could that document be shared with elected members on an ongoing basis, given that we're captured by the document? And if that's the case, I'm happy to move the motion, Mr. Mayor.
You're moving the recommendation. Council adopt the records and information management policy as amended.
I'm happy to second that.
Councillor Rountree is the seconder. Is there any discussion, councillors? There being none, you'll close, councillor.
So close.
Put the motion as it is in the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Number 7 is the Canalpin and Districts Soldiers Memorial Swimming Pool and Caravan Park Committee. Minutes of the meeting of the 29th of March. Someone move that way, please. Councillor Rountree, you moving?
Yes.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Bland, Councillor Rountree, anything to add?
No.
Anyone else? Councillor Bland?
All
No.
good, thank you.
All good, all good, all good. In the case, so you'll close,
Please.
put the motion, all those in favour? Those against, that's carried. Number 8, Roads and Infrastructure Committee minutes of meeting held on the 4th of April. Someone move that way, please. Recommendation. Councillor O'Hara. Is there a seconder? Councillor Qualman. Any discussion? Being none, you'll close the motion. All those in favour? Those against? I declare that carried unanimously. Move on to information reports. 11.1 from the Office of the Chief Executive Officer. There's a report there, a recommendation. Someone move that way, please. Councillor Rountree.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I've sent this one to the CEO, so she's probably got an answer for me.
Mhm.
Just looking at the blue expenses table, which is page 39, I think, of the individual report. The adopted budget of employee costs being 4.4 million and the forecast for the end of June this financial year at $5.4 million more. Wonder if there's an explanation for that one, and likewise. Increase of 100.
Councillors. Through you, Mayor. So with the salary costs, what happens with salary is that there is a component that will be capitalised at some point in the process, generally at the end of the financial year when we're doing a, I'll call it a tidy up, but when we're finalising accounts. So there's probably 800,000 to come out of that will go against projects as a capital expense. So once you take that out of the budget, the increase is around about 4%. So this is a point in time position, but the end of the year position, the final 5 million doesn't include that money. It will end up below the line at some point in the adjustments.
So it will end up more in line with our adopted budget.
Correct. With the other expenses, you'll notice that the other expenses and the finance costs have the biggest discrepancies. That was a movement of how we recorded the landscape levy. It's moved from one line to another. So once you take that out of the equation, the percentage and the change is insignificant. It's
Thank
just
you.
a movement.
Just a movement. Excellent. Then I'm happy. Oh no, in case
You're
anyone else
moving
has
that
a
way?
question. I'm actually happy to move that way. Yeah.
Okay, the council receive a note of the report. Is there a seconder? Councillor Maidman, got there first. Any further discussion or debate around this motion, councillors? Councillor Peach.
Just a question around the outstanding acquittals. I am aware of one of them, but just wondered if there was any further commentary on that.
So you may no, we just are continuing to work. There will be a point where we may have to take some action, but at this point, it's still continuing to work with those groups.
For Roundtree.
Sorry, when I said I was just looking at the financial part, I just
Have
realised.
you got a question if you're not speaking to it anymore?
No, I do have more questions. So what do I have here? The March visitor numbers, is there a counter at the Canalpin Caravan Park? So the park is full of visitors all the time. 20 vans there in one night. If we're not collecting details on visitor numbers, perhaps that should be removed from that tally, and that may even apply to the Point Malcolm Lighthouse. However, I think in our visit, when we went past, there was some sort of counter on the gate, so that's broken. So I'm just wondering if we're not collecting it, rather than look like visiting, we just remove them from that report.
You may, it's just not available. It's not that we're not. So the NA is for not available. It's
Or
we
not
do-
applicable.
No, not available. So there will be some months when that's not available, just because of the nature of those counters that we have, which are not entirely sophisticated. But the intention is to capture as much data as we can.
So is there a counter on the caravan park?
My understanding is that we're looking, and I'm looking to the director here, of how people swipe and use those cards. I don't think we've got a counter on the gate.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. No, I don't believe there is, but. Outside now.
Okay, great. Another question I have was under meetings attended by the CEO on the 7th of March, the meeting with DIP regarding Salt Creek Rest Area. Is there an update for that one?
Through you, Mayor, we don't have an update yet, but we have been talking, as you know, about the over the parking bays north and south of Meningie, where DIT are doing are creating them. We have been talking with them about toilets and the possibility of what they might think there. They haven't come back to us yet.
And you're still pursuing that?
Correct.
And then my last one was on the 27th of March, you and I attended the Women in Agriculture Business Conference at Canalpin, which was great. And can I request that the council invite the CEO of Food Bank to address us, because I thought his presentation was excellent.
Through you, Mayor, I recorded that, so we are looking at that at some point.
That's all I had.
I request the CEO doesn't move the mic anymore.
I better leave it down then.
Anyone else in relation to item 11.1? Benny?
Sorry,
Sorry,
I'd just like
yes.
to make a comment, and that is around the information hubs, and that it's good to see the numbers increasing and being picked up to show reflection of what's happening in the.
Certainly. Okay, there's no more. Councillor Roundtree's closing. So the motion is the recommendation that council just receive and note that report. All those in favour? Against, that's carried unanimously. Number 11.2. Corporate and Community Information Report. Councillors, someone please move that way, please. Got a question, councillor Roundtree, we'll start with that.
Yeah. So I just want a bit of clarification around the section 41 action list. So when a committee requests, like the full committee have done with full equipment, put in a request, and the council have noted that they're going to go back to investigate the purchase of equipment, which is what it says in the report. Does the decision come back to council, or is this a decision of staff as to what happens in that next step?
Through you, Mayor. Currently, it's a decision that we internally will progress. That is something we can look at when we work through the workshop with you, how you want that structure to reflect better. Mayor.
Any other questions? Councillor Peach?
The bar graphs located, page 68. First one, incidents and hazards. There's one more bar than category. And just wondering, the one that reflects 9, is that the public incidents?
Through you, Mayor, is it the top graph you're looking at, January to March?
Yeah, January to March, incidents and
Incident
hazards.
hazards. Thank you. They were, the public incidents, he has just reminded me, there were 2 rescues at the pool where parental supervision had lapsed and the lifeguards had to step in.
Yeah, just, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, it just looks on this as though there were 9 different public incidents.
No,
No.
I think that's a rogue bar.
Oh, I see it. Yeah.
I'll take it on notice to make sure, but I don't think that there's any commentary on the left hand missing.
Mm.
I'll take that back, councillor. Have a look. Aggressive customers, they've all slipped down one in terms of the translation of the graph into the report.
Number of bars equals the number of.
Correct. Sometimes with these graphs, when you translate them into this actual document, it's untidy, and we try to ensure that it isn't, but it is.
Someone like to move the recommendation though. Councillor Coleman and Roundtree is the mover and seconder. Is there any further questions or debate? Councillor Peach.
One further comment, I'll just note that under the section 41 Canalpa swimming pool currently says that the action request regarding signage is waiting to the branding project is complete, and just wanted to note that earlier today, am I allowed to? It would appear that's being actioned a bit sooner than that.
Well, the second part of the debate, I presume, swimming pool is that we're probably not open at the moment. Therefore, the urgency mightn't be till September. I've got a mover and a seconder. Is there anything else, councillors? There being none, I'll close and I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Number 3, Infrastructure and Assets Information Report. Councillor Coleman, you have a question?
No, I have a question.
Yeah, we'll start with your question then.
Thank you. Page 77, regarding the no-through road of Wellington Lodge Road. Could someone inform me what category it is, and was it a total resheet of the entire road, please?
James.
Mr. Mayor, yes, it's a classification 5B road, and it is a resheet activity, yes, undertaken at 6 metres wide in lieu of the standard 8 metre wide resheet, because that's what the existing road width was.
I say, Mr. Mayor, there just been some concerns raised by local ratepayers, and I would hope that there's only one resident living down there, that this road lasts for substantial time, like about 50 years, hopefully, with all the money being spent on it.
The councillors, I'm aware of the discussion and conjecture around the road. It was impassable last spring because I did have a try and drive it. We should not quite assume that there's only one person lives on it, to be quite honest. Along those access roads along the lake, there's often more than one property owner. And I understand it was discussed in a longer term plan 2 or 3 years ago. Councillor Roundtree
So
and O'Hara.
my questions are on a similar vein.
Yeah.
We'll actually have a couple of them. So with Wellington Lodge, I noticed in the report that it said project was brought forward. So my question is, where was it brought forward from? And what was the criteria for bringing this one forward as opposed to others? So there is a bit of a stir out there in the community about this one. And I've also been told that there's rubble appearing on the private part of the road, and there's an assumption that hopefully this is not being funded by council, and I would assume that's the case, but it was raised with me that there was a concern. So my question is, if it's been brought forward on a project, because I've been searching through the council website and I can only find references to grading of Wellington Lodge Road, not actually it being a project on a list somewhere.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, you would note this year we brought a 1 to 3 year program to the council. In previous years, we've had a 1 to 3 year program, but we've only presented that program for adoption each year, basically. So we adopt an annual budget, and then the proposed roads list is then provided to council for their consideration. In this circumstance, it deteriorated significantly to when we originally set that priority. And leading into this time of year, it would have definitely been impassable through the winter months. We had delays in other projects with the ability to source material and actually physically deliver those projects. So the combination of those facts meant that we have that from which would have been the 2023-24 delivery timeframe into this one.
So I suppose the process I'd add here, and councillors, you've been presented with 3 years worth of possible roads going forward in recent weeks. We've seen that document, is that sometimes things change, and probably giving flexibility over a forward 3 year process is important. It may get to the point that some roads get to the point they're being patched so much they may as well have been resheeted. And the second point is council, and we have got that list and I hope you can comment on it, is that when we get into particularly the 5Bs and perhaps even 5Cs sometimes, and I've received some questions again Saturday at the football around these roads, is how much money do you wish to spend on them given other priorities of the council? Councillor O'Hara.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I too had phone calls on this road, and was concerned about it, so I went out and had a look. And I've been going to Wellington Lodge for a lot of years, and I do know that it is that heavy black ground, and it has broke through. Did need something done. My personal opinion is it probably didn't need the work it got, but it would have needed something if it had broke through. But I do correct the mayor in saying that it does only service one family, that road. It is fenced both sides of the road and only services one property.
Okay. I'm getting close to someone moving the report though, besides that. Councillor Roundtree.
Well, I thought I'd just finish on a high for this one. I just wanted to congratulate the staff on the landscaping work at the skate park. I thought that came up absolutely beautiful on the weekend. You can see they've done a lot of work out there. The mulching work through around the Canalpin sign at Canalpin has made a huge difference to when you drive in, about how tidy the town looks when you first clap eyes on it. The bore licensing information in the report was really, really good. I enjoyed reading that. I'm a bit of a fan of a bore license. And I think, and identifying how some of the bins were damaged, I thought that was very interesting as well. The work that council had done in looking at how the bins were damaged and what they, the sorts of things they're going to continue to investigate. So I do appreciate those 4 things. But they were very good information.
I'm looking for a mover. Councillor Bland's next though.
I just have a question, and that is about the Lions Park jetty upgrade. And has that been checked? Because I had some comments from community on the weekend in relation to the fact that votes actually got caught underneath the drop-down section, or whether or not another rail needs to go in. Is it actually finished, or is, because there was a small boat with children in it?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So that's completed as per design. We're aware of that request and we're looking into the potential of an additional.
Beautiful, thank you. All good, thanks, James.
Councillor Qualman, I'm hoping you want to move the report though.
Or can I make a comment then move?
Yeah.
Please. It was going to be a question, Mr. Mayor, but it's
Yeah.
actually a compliment to our infrastructure and assets section on page 86, where I had the concern about our rubbish bins. Sounds with a bit of a comprehensive report here saying hopefully we've might have rectified and are on the improve, because I haven't seen any recent occurrences of damaged bins. So I think we might be getting there, Mr. Mayor. So I'm now happy to move.
Thank you. That's Councillor Qualman. Your seconder. Councillor Roundtree. Just might add on the issue of the rubbish bins, the contract, we are probably the earliest councillor that's renewed the contract of the region. And we're probably the lead in discussing issues with the contractor. As another councillor near us who's ongoing with this contract said, you always have some interesting times early with the new contractor. We probably had them, I hope. Councillor Roundtree was to add anything? You were the seconder. Is there anyone else? Councillor Peach?
I just wanted to ask through Mr. Mayor for an update on Karkuma Road, given the early onset of wet weather, and whether that's impacting.
Love to have the early onset of wet weather in my area, but James?
Certainly through, Mr. Mayor, we're forecasting about 3 weeks to completion at the moment. So cement stabilising of the shoulders should have finished the close visits today. Full road construction, and then sealing to commence 2 weeks' time, which will be about a 2-week process.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Qualman's pulled his mic down, so
Do you want me to close?
well, I just want to make sure everyone else is happy. Yes.
Oh, close again.
So the recommendation is the motion. All those in favour? Against, that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Questions with notice. There's Neil. Questions without notice. There is none. Motions with notice. There is nil. Motions without notice. Councillor, try.
It's an easy one. Oh, go ahead.
I've got to hear it first before I can do anything with it.
Well, I get nervous. That the council install a 4-wheel drive sign at the southern entrance to Hemsley Road, which is off Turrigat Well, to warn drivers that the road is not suitable for all vehicles. We have a 4-wheel drive sign at the, what do you call it, the north end of that road, and it just needs one on the south end of the road so that people just don't turn in it. Pretty boggy.
So, councillor, I know it needs to be done. We feel that it'd be best done by a CRM or simply a call to the staff.
Oh,
I'm not,
sounds like you're declining my motion.
I actually am, because it's not frivolous, sorry, but it is something as simple as that, and I feel that we should, something as simple as installing a 4-wheel drive sign, which I think used to be there from memory at the crossroads, as they call it, the 4 ways, 3 ways.
From memory, when I raised
Yeah.
the first one, it was a motion at that
So
point. As
I'm going to
well.
just decline your motion, but note that the CRM will be lodged around putting it up. And I'd also note that Hemsley Road was in our roads list to be resheeted, which makes it important for you as councillors to go through the list and take out the obvious anomalies, I might say. And I know Councillor O'Hara, have you looked at Wise Road yet for me? For example, so there is some, James is chuckling a bit, but I'm just going to say that we'll just pick that up as a CRM, not an NRM,
Can
sorry.
it be minuted then that I raised it and you've suggested I do it as a CRM? Because this has now occurred. It's part
I
of
think
our
the
meeting.
reporting shows it happened.
Sure, but I think we need it in the physical. In my opinion.
But I know we didn't confirm the minutes of the last meeting.
Well, we could have the same problem if we. I just think we need to be recording what happens and what's
No,
happened.
you
I've
do.
raised
What I'm
mine.
going to urge you, councillor, as I said earlier,
Mhm.
is that something as this nature, which is operational, in my view, operational should be just raised directly with the staff.
Where are the
Second-
guidelines around that though, that
Yeah,
tell you?
yeah. Secondly, our terms of reference and that, as I've explained, we're going to go through in a workshop in 2 or 3 weeks' time. So that's my decision, because if it is an operational issue, this one in effect. If there was a debate around this, I'd be fascinated.
Running out of ideas through your mayor that what actually can be brought up as a motion without notice.
Well, it could be a motion with notice, that's my point.
No, but it's still operational. If it's with or without, it's still operational in your view. So it won't make any difference if I put it in.
Well.
With notice at the next
Well, actually
meeting.
does, believe it or not. So
This makes no sense to my head.
I know it does. We'll discuss it at this workshop.
Huh?
Councillor.
Should do away with motions without notice.
Oh, we
Okay.
should just not have it. So through you, Mayor, can it be recorded that I've made?
Well, I
this-
don't believe it can be recorded in the minute. That's my trouble in a governance sense, because our process says it can't be.
What-
Councillor
where-
Peach.
Mr Mayor, the regulations are silent on the issue, but do support it with a question with notice. So I would like to move a motion without notice that we record the motion as recorded and that you exercise your decision in declining it.
Try me again.
I am moving a motion that we record councillor's motion without notice and that you exercise your decision as is your right under the Act to decline it. I'm moving a separate notice without notice, sorry, separate motion without notice to record the contents of the previous mover's request.
I'm going to take that because I'm going to, yep. We're doing, as you know, councillor, some work in this area. So just get those words correct for you.
I'm not sure why it needs to be so tricky.
Neither am I.
Seems to become a stumbling block for us at the minute.
The CRM process is available for councillors like all others.
I just didn't think it was for me, this isn't something that needs to be repaired, or it's not a leaky or a creaky
No.
door. This is a sign that needs to go up, and I would have assumed that it's quite significant to put a sign up. If we were putting a sign anywhere else in the district, it would.
So
probably need to
signs
come
will be
to
under
council.
delegated authority, councillor.
Sure, so for me, this putting up a sign, I did this and we moved the
Yeah.
first four-wheel drive road sign for Hemsley Road back in
Hmm.
2019.
And that sign, I think that sign's disappeared from that signpost.
No, it's still there. The Hemsley Road four-wheel drive only is still there at the northern end. It's just,
Yeah,
as I pointed out to you when we were driving that day, here's Hemsley Road, but people go down there, they'll get
I know,
stuck.
I'm not arguing that point.
And there's no telephone reception there either. They'll die there. It's a safety matter.
Councillor Peach, the contents of the motion not accepted by the mayor and raised by councillor Branch be recorded within the minutes.
So moved.
So moved. There a seconder? Councillor Roundtree. You speak, councillor.
Mr Mayor, I think that this definitely reflects the decision of council should it be accepted and tidies up the expectation, I think, from community members that our minutes do reflect a little more fully what occurs, which has been raised with me a number of times in the last few weeks.
Do we need to add what it was that was raised? Thank you.
You speaking, councillor, too. There's a second.
That was it. I just,
Does anyone else wish to speak to this motion without notice? All right, councillor Peach, you'll close.
Close.
Put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Right, I probably can't say any more, can I? Any further motions?
What is the contents of the motion? We need that into the minutes, don't we?
Through the mayor, we do have it written down so we can add it in afterwards. It'll just be the description of the motion moved.
That's right.
Okay.
You're looking at me, councillor, with a sort of
No, I've got-
chagrin I haven't seen from you for a
I've got a
while.
very similar one, actually.
Oh, God.
You want to ask something?
Yeah. But I was going to send it through. It's about Ford Avenue and Northcote Terrace. We've just put a giveaway sign up, but everybody thinks, and all the locals and myself think it's in the wrong spot. It's on Northcote Terrace where all the 70-ton trucks come around. Or it should be changed to Ford Avenue,
So,
Peter Road. Yeah,
so councillors,
I'll send it.
I reiterate my position around councillors having time to consider items.
Yeah.
And reiterate that the Act is quite clear at 7 clear days. Now, I know there's a little bit of work being done at the moment around the holiday Monday and how it affects that. But I just reiterate for everyone's benefit in the room, be it simple or not simple, get it in within the 7 days, please, for the agenda. I'm going to reiterate.
My original one was I thought it was still Tuesday. And we changed it back to Monday.
7 clear days. So it has to be in by
Was a business Monday.
close of business on the Monday previous, the meeting.
And what's the rule then if that happens to be Easter Monday?
There is some conjecture around that and some work's been done on it, councillor. I would note that actually, no, it's actually important question because it's not uncommon, funnily enough, for the council meeting to fall the day after a public holiday Monday. A week after, sorry. A week after that day.
Yeah, so we definitely need some advice because the stuff that I've read said that if the public holiday is part of that, we get the Tuesday.
We are looking into it, councillor. Right. Is there any further motions without notice? Being that, we can move on to item 14, the minute action list.
Just on, just a question with the CRM process, sorry to interrupt, Mayor. When the CRM is made, do we ever get a list of all the CRMs that are out there? How is that collected? Is that on a list that you have?
Through you, Mayor. It's a list that's monitored every day. So team leaders and senior staff monitored with their staff every day. So if you make a phone call in or send an email, it's allocated to a staff member, the relevant staff member for resolution.
Is there follow-up on when these things are actioned or not actioned?
Get a number.
You get a number and you follow it up? Okay.
I don't get it.
Councillors, we can give you a number if you want.
Okay. Minute action list, I'm on. Councillor O'Hara.
Yeah, minute 03620, no, hang on. 00923, the frame carriages. It says complete here on, have we had a tender and disposed of them or?
Through you, Mayor. Only number one, item 1 on that list of 1, 2, 3 is complete. The other 2 and 3 aren't.
Okay. And I see a picture of one being painted. Is
It had graffiti on it that was a little bit,
Repainted.
that the one we're keeping?
yes, but we couldn't leave the graffiti there even though even if it wasn't the one we were keeping, Mayor, we couldn't have kept it. We had to repaint it because of the graffiti.
Thank you. Mine is 03723, which you probably won't find on the list. It was my motion around having access to the internet system. It doesn't seem to be on the list anymore and it hasn't been completed.
We will bring it back on.
Thank you. And my second one is just the wording around 191/22, the Pelican sculpture. The wording sort of indicates that a replacement is forthcoming, and it probably is useful to stress that it's only really going to be replaced if grant funding is found, because I think the way it's written sort of makes it look like it's going to happen regardless. And just the expectations around that one.
Which through you, Mayor, which one are you looking at, councillor?
191.22.
That motion is directly, that was the motion that was accepted by council.
Okay, so it didn't say, isn't there a comment somewhere that I thought there was a comment, I'll have to go back and find it. There's a comment somewhere that makes it, oh, I'll find it. There's a comment somewhere in the thingy-majiggy.
Through your worship, in the notes section.
Notes, yeah.
Along there's a comment that a report on the replacement sculpture. I think that's what you're referring
That's what I'm
to.
referring to, yes, thank you, Miles.
I'd emphasise at this point, that's the importance of a properly formulated motion. That's clear.
Yeah, so a report on the replacement sculpture will be tabled with council, so it makes it sound like it's going to happen. And I just thought maybe it would be useful to amend the notes to say something about grant funding.
It's internal notes, councillor.
Yes, internal notes, yes.
Anything else in the minute action list, councillors, while I'm here?
If I may, I'd like to move a motion with that notice that completed actions remain on the minute action list for a period of 12 months,
I would second that.
pending their, post their complete.
Through you, Mayor, that's a very big list.
So again, councillor, could you formulate that as a motion with notice for the next meeting, please? Anything else?
Mr. Mayor, can I cannot find the new Telstra towers. What's happened to them? How come they've dropped off the list?
Through you, Mayor, they're in the information doc.
Surely they're in action too, aren't they? No?
Through you, Mayor, the actions that relate to some of those grants and the towers is a good example. Are in the information docs, and there's a traffic light system to show you whether we're up to date with them or not.
Okay, all right.
So through you, Mayor, have they then been removed from the minute action list because they're in the information document?
But through you, Mayor, yes, they're in progress. They wouldn't be there. And are they a motion?
It was initially, but I can't remember. So specifically.
Well, thank you. So through you, Mayor, what was in the motion's actually been actioned, and so the information document now keeps you tracks where those grants are up to and what the work on them is. It would be doubling up basically if we could to leave both of them there.
So through you, Mayor, with the minute that I had raised about the extranet system, for that just to disappear, it took me a long time to go back and find that one through records because it hasn't actually been on the list now for the last few meetings. And so it's dropped off at some point. And so I actually started going through and collecting all of them to try and put them back into some sort of list again. I think it would be useful. I can see where Councillor Beach is coming from. It'd actually be useful to have them there to reflect back on, because otherwise it's just, you lose track of things very quickly. Session. Councillor.
Your discussion point there is looking back on the council intranet system.
Well, it was a motion raised and it's now no longer on the minute action list. So it's gone, but it hasn't actually been done. So it's just disappeared.
It was a motion of the
How
last
does that
council.
happen? Pardon?
Motion of the last council.
No, I only did this once at 23. It was earlier. So it's a 03723. It was this year.
Right.
It needs to be put back.
Councillors, minute action list, I'm still on. I'm going to complete that. Thank you. So, for those watching the live stream, please be advised the meeting is about to move into confidence and the live stream will stop. For those who wish to view the end of the meeting, the video will be available on YouTube after today's meeting. So we'll stop the meeting for the moment and the recording and the live streaming, please. Thank you, Ashley. Number 1, review of confidential items. Confidential